a national champion, which means he's a made man. And also, ladies and gentlemen, his team is ranked #1 in the country, which means something. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, head coach Ryan Day.
Yeah, coach.
What's up, boys?
Hey, don't even do training camp. You guys are #1 team in the country. Congratulations.
Let's go, coach. Great.
You did it.
Hell yeah.
Every coach in the country wants to be ranked #1 going into the preseason. That's a real big deal.
Obviously, your teams are always going to be ranked high because the amount of respect they have for you for building a program, but also the amount of talent that you not only keep from last year, but bring in. Let's talk about your team a little bit and the respect that everybody's showing. Julian saying another year. Obviously, we got Jeremiah on the outside. The offense has stars and is littered with talent. Are we expecting them to take a massive step? Like, what is your kind of expectation of the offense last year that we saw get rolling late, but obviously can put it into another gear? What is your messaging to them as we head into this season?
Well, I think every year is a new year. And I said this before, like, I don't think that college football is year to year, like maybe sometimes in the NFL, but it's getting that way. And I think even just like to your point about like the preseason polls, I think they mean less and less because I don't think, we all know who each other is, early on in the season because so many guys move around year to year. And so it's the same thing with our team. But for us on offense, we do have a lot of pieces coming back. As you said, Julian and Jeremiah, Brandon Innes on the outside, but also, our offensive line. So we need to build off of last year. I thought there was certain things that we did early on that was good, bringing Julian along, a young player. But now this is year 2 for him, which since I've been here, it's only the third time we've had that, with Justin and then with C.J. Stroud. So that's exciting because as we go into this year, not everything's for the first time with Julian, and he's going to have an experienced, offensive line. But I think just for the entire team, as I was looking at it, recently going through it and getting ready for our team meeting today, guys report today, our first practice is tomorrow, is when you look at the schedule, there's 17 games that are listed there. That includes all the playoffs. And if we play that entire schedule, there's probably going to be 11 teams that are ranked in the top 25 at the very least, maybe not even maybe the top 15. So, we're going to have to bring it every week, and it's going to have to sustain throughout the season.
I think the maturity of your team will obviously bode well for consistency over a 17-game season. I think that is where people have drop-offs. You're managing 18 to 23-year-olds, 24-year-olds on a week-to-week basis, let alone with personal lives. And I think that's why knowing that you're able to win a national championship, I think, is a big deal. I think that's why we all kind of hold you at a different tier than everybody else who hasn't been able to do it. In this modern college football world, people think like sustainability and consistency, and you talked about Julian saying this is only like a few times now where we've had a quarterback for 2 years. You bring in Will Howard, obviously he has a couple rough spots, but you guys stick together and do it. How do you build the chemistry and camaraderie of your team? Like, do you expect them to kind of take onus upon themselves? Like, how do you build a team that loves each other? Because your national championship story about the meeting where, hey, we're all in this together, it was very obvious that your team loved each other. After last year not reaching the peak, is there something you're drawing from that? Like, how do you make your team come together, and what do you think about this group of guys?
No, I think you nailed it right on the head in terms of just about every coach who's chasing what we're chasing is looking to answer the same thing because the model's different than it was, just recently in the last, 4 or 5 years. And so because there's new names in the building, and we have to do this in short order, and there's going to be adversity along the way, and pulling together and building that competitive stamina all the way to January 25th is going to be the key here. And so much of it is in the off season, what we do in the weight room, what we do in terms of building teams. It's so much of it. And for us, it's like, what is this team about? I think the way that we describe it are there are teams and tribes. Teams are a bunch of people who have the same uniform that are in the same locker room. A tribe is a group of people that come together for one common purpose, and like making sure that everybody in that locker room is thinking about that one purpose. And in today's day and age, with everything going on NIL wise, the portal, it's very easy to get distracted, and guys can start going in different directions. So championship teams have that purpose, and they all come together. And to your point, that is the key. And so much of it has been built up since we all got together in January, but a lot of it is going to have to happen right now in preseason camp.
There was a Navy SEAL that was traveling around telling his story about tribes and knowing your why. He was a little bit of a rounder fella. I don't know if you've caught up with him, but his explanation of tribe and why he speaks that way, and if everybody knows everybody's why, it's a lot easier to create a tribe. He was this rounder fella. You remember him?
Oh, yeah.
He made fun of do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I believe you're talking about Clint Bruce.
Big guy, little rounder guy. Never expect a Navy SEAL to look the way he was a fullback, and he became a Navy SEAL. And it's like, you were doing all the swimming too. He's like, oh yeah. And they all thought the sharks would want to eat my fat ass. So it was a lot easier or whatever. But he was phenomenal. But his messaging was tribe, and I've never heard it like laid out like that. And I love to hear you bringing it up because that's real. That's what sports in the locker rooms are all
Caring
about.
about one another, having your shit together off the field, so you can focus on all those things.
Everything matters.
Oh yeah,
everything matters.
When you think about when someone comes to Ohio State, they're coming for different reasons, and what motivates them is their own their own individual motivation. But once they get here, the idea is that you're playing so hard for your teammates. You're playing so hard for Ohio State because of what comes with it, the tradition, the legacy, those that have come before, and the guy next to you. It can't just be about you at that point because that won't sustain, not through a 17-game season.
Yeah, it'll get exposed, and it'll come to light, and it gets very loud, and we see it with teams. It's like, that team doesn't like each other. They're there for the wrong things, and we will be picking against them on game day for the rest of the season. And they might win a little bit, but it doesn't feel like they have it. I love what your teams have done. That national championship team will be a story that people tell about togetherness forever, especially with what happened after Michigan. Obviously don't want to go through those downfalls, but what ended up on the other side was special. I hope this team can find it as well. Big Ten, tough. 3 different national champions in the Big Ten over the last 3 years. You guys certainly talking a little bit different at your press conference, media conference days than down in the South. But on that note, Ty has a question for you.
Yeah, as they should be. Coach, you don't need to make any excuses. The Big Ten is the best league in college sports. But just curious, last year, I think there was maybe an expected grace period, even though you guys, a lot of people picked you to win the national championship, but you had a quarterback who didn't have, any starts. So it was maybe, hey, things will be a little bit rocky before, we kind of find our groove. But how imperative is it this year that you guys start fast and, kind of play well right out of the gates with Texas in week 2, and then you alluded to it. There's a chance you end up playing 11 top 25, top 15 teams. So how important is it that you guys are kind of rolling right from the get-go?
Yeah, you nailed it right on the head again. It's critical for us. Week 2 at Texas, it's a monster game for us. It's not the end of the season, but we know how important that is and where that's going to project out down the road. So we have to have a great preseason camp. We got to be good early, but then we have to continue to develop as the season goes on and continue to evolve as the season goes on. What we look like in week 2 cannot be how we look like at the end of the year. And then we have to handle after Thanksgiving better going into the playoffs. There's no question. Look at it just how we did, when the Big Ten championship, everything that led up to that game, and then the layoff, and we just didn't play well against Miami, especially in the first half. So all those things have been talked about, and the guys understand that, and I think we have a good plan. But more importantly, we just got to focus on right now. We can't get too far ahead of ourselves looking at the schedule. Even right now, focusing on Texas, that can't be the focus. The focus has to be on having a great preseason camp, getting each other better, getting some of these guys who haven't been Buckeyes before on the field, playing at a high level, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, you talk about people that haven't been Buckeyes before having to prove it. It's not just the players, also coaches. Go ahead, D-Bud.
Yeah, you got a ton of NFL experience in the coaching staff. Artie Smith now comes over. How's it been working with Artie Smith? And then I feel like every year you got another phenomenal wide receiver coming into the building, Chris Henry Jr., making all the damn money in the NFL as well. So tell me about Artie Smith and Chris Jr.
Well, so much of our job is talent acquisition, and that starts with the coaching staff, and then it goes to the players and the roster, which has changed a lot. The way you design a coaching staff is different now. There used to just be 10 assistant coaches and then graduate assistants. Now there's unlimited coaches in college. So it's allowed us to do some different things, and our administration's been great about that and has allowed us to go get guys like Matt Patricia and Arthur Smith. And the thing to me with these guys is they have the pedigree and the resume of coaching in the NFL, and winning playoff games, winning Super Bowls, but more importantly, they wanted to get into the college game. I feel like if you're sort of an NFL guy, you're used to the NFL. If you have to talk somebody into coming to college, it doesn't work. These guys wanted to, and you can see they're highly motivated to do that. And then and then it trickles down, to the players. And the type of guys that we're bringing in, speaks to the culture and our assistant coaches and the work they're putting in.
Artie do you have a mustache, or is he going to do what maybe he does a Ryan Day beard? Maybe he does Ryan Day beard. What does his face look like right now? Do you know?
He's got a little stash going, that he looks different at different times. It depends on what preseason looks like. So we'll have to see.
You need to know that when the mustache is in full hum,
that's when
things are going great for Artie.
Exactly.
Number one offense.
It's literally written on his face.
Yes, it is.
How everything's going. So, and he knows he has a good one, too.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, even electric doors open for Artie when he has that mustache. And then whenever he doesn't, people are telling him, get out. And so we need him to do that, and I think the Ohio people will love him. I'm excited to see him and Matt Patricia kind of talk to each other. On that note, Tone has a question for you.
Yeah, Coach. Speaking of Matt Patricia, he came in last year and just dominated one of the best college football defenses of all time statistically. And then I was looking at it. So Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, Caden McDonald, that's last year. Igbinosin last year. And then JTT, Jack Sawyer, just to name like a couple guys who are gone off the last two incredible defenses. You talked about bringing in guys from other places, transfers who have played a lot, but kind of need to fill in on that defense. What is it like on that defense now that some of the leaders, a lot of the leaders are gone, and who do you think is going to step up this season?
Yeah, well, it's hard to replace, guys like Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, and Caden McDonald. And the majority of those guys were all 3-year guys. So not only do you lose the production, but to your point, you lose the leadership. So guys have to step up in a big way. And we had to make sure that the guys that we replaced some of those losses with were guys who were experienced. And so, we did. We went out and got, Quay, Rusa and James Smith and John Walker in the portal up front. We picked up Christian Allegro, who these guys have played a lot of football. Earl Little, we picked up Terry Moore. And so I think there's 8 guys on defense who have had a lot of experience, and so they're going to have to step up. But the guys who are returning, they're the ones that know the culture best. So, Kenyatta Jackson has got to have a big year for us. He's got to really step up. Peyton Pierce, who played a bunch, at linebacker with Sonny and Arvell last year, has had a really good spring and off season. So he's one of the guys that we're counting on. Jalen McClain, who played back there last year, we're counting on him as well. And then Jermaine Matthews is someone that, again, has played a lot of football. So some of those guys who, again, weren't starters, like, for instance, you didn't know much about Arvell going into last year, but he had played a lot the year before. Some of these guys have played. They just weren't starters. So they're going to have to take the next step. But that's typical of Ohio State. I mean, we lose guys every year, but we got to make sure these guys understand that, it starts from the first play, and it's going to last all the way to January 25th. That's probably the biggest thing for us.
Sorry, while you were talking there, it reminded me, I just heard you do an interview, I think it was on CBS podcast, that you asked Caleb Downs about a lot of your transfers coming in. Like, how important is that in the NIL era and transfer era, like that you use players that know other players on which guys you're bringing in?
Well, we all expect every year to be in the hunt and one of the top teams in the country in terms of our talent and have a chance to win the national championship every year. So if that's the case, the culture has to stay strong, and we can't have dips. And so one of the things for us when we bring these guys into the portal, because that typically is done to fill holes. Every coach will tell you they want to recruit and retain. We're the same way. But when we fill these guys in, the more information that we can get, the better. And to your point, Caleb played with Earl, played with Quay, played with James at Alabama's freshman year. And so he knew those guys, knew their character. And some of the other guys, like Kyle Parker, had played for Cortez Hankton. Terry had played for McAfee. So there was guys that we knew of. So it just eliminates the best you can, having somebody that doesn't fit the culture.
Yeah, all the information you could potentially gather from everybody is good, so you don't have to pay the wrong people.
Yeah.
Speaking of people getting paid, wide receivers out of your school doing A-okay. I don't know if you've seen these numbers, okay? This is absurd. When Saban was done, they did a math equation on the amount of money that his players have made. And then we were talking to Coach Calipari. Yeah. Coach Calipari in, obviously, college hoops. He talked about, I want to change 12 more families or something, 12 more families' lives because of the deals that they get. You guys are becoming a factory okay, of NFL talent. And that's a lot of hard work. That doesn't just happen. You know, everybody says, well, they have support from this. A lot of schools do. So creating that's a big deal. But whenever you see your guys go and get paid, and obviously you talk about the culture and passing it on, for you, there has to be a sense of pride, right? Like there has to be some sort of, like, how do you feel about the ex-Ohio State Buckeyes having massive success financially and also professionally? I mean, they're showing Sonny Styles is already blowing people up. Caleb's already blowing people up. Everything's seemingly.
Tate.
Marvin's now catching.
Yep.
I mean, everything's kind of happening. For you, what is that feeling with guys that leave the Buckeyes, especially in what seems to be a transactional world that we're in? Like Caleb calling you and wanting to be a part of that, that feels cool because obviously Caleb didn't spend his entire career there. For you, watching this all happen post, what is it like for you and how do you kind of treat it and deal with it, if you will?
Well, I think when you get into the offseason, you have a little bit of time to sort of sit and think about exactly what you're talking about. And there's really one reason why most of us get into coaching. I'm sure some guys are motivated different ways, but to me, the reason why you get into coaching is to have an impact on people. And we decide what level we want to get into, based on our personalities and what we want. And just so happened, we chose Ohio State. And I say that to everybody in the room, whether it's the coaches, the players, the administrator, like we chose Ohio State. So you know what that means? We got to win them all. And that's the expectation. And that's how it works. But along the way, winning just allows us an opportunity to continue to have an impact on these guys' lives. And so to see going through the recruiting process, talking to these families about here's what we're going to do. It's not going to be easy, but if you make it through and you do things the right way, here are the examples. And now we have testimony.
Yeah, testimony, and the people that don't want you to win just cut you off completely.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, they just cut. As soon as you got done there, they just completely cut you off. But I love that because now getting to know Saban and Miss Terry, it's like you can see the genuine fulfillment and joy whenever you talk about one of their ex-players getting a new deal or, because they saw them and met them whenever life was vastly different for everything. And then watch them battle bad decisions, good decisions, bad times, good times, and all of it. And then to watch you, that has to be awesome for you. And now you've been in a lot, you got gray in that beard.
Oh, yeah. Right.
You got an old man. Go ahead.
I got actually, you look at that list, and the first person that jumps at me, guy that played with us, Brian Hartline. He came back. He was obviously at Ohio State for a long time. Now he's a head coach at USF, which I'm sure you take great pride in as well. But like, who has stepped? Because I'm not familiar. Who has stepped up in that role now as the wide receiver coach? Because that is
and recruiter though too, and
recruiting,
Florida.
Development, all that thing is very important. So who's stepped up in that role over at Ohio State?
Yeah, I mean, Brian, as you know, did an unbelievable job, and not only was a great player here, was a great player in the NFL, but did an unbelievable job recruiting and developing. But when we're at Ohio State, you get to go hire the best. I remember when I was one of my first recruiting meetings. I was the quarterback's coach and offense coordinator, and Urban Meyer was the head coach here. And we walked in, and the recruit and the family says, "Well, we really like Coach Day, but what happens if he leaves?" And I thought Coach should say, well, no, he's going to be here for a long time. You don't need to worry about that. He just said, we'll just go get the next best guy out there. Around here. So that's what we had to do. We got to go get the next best guy out there. The great news for us is we were able to do that. And the reputation of the room and the type of guys and the tradition, we were able to bring in Cortez Hankton. And Jeremiah and Brandon had a lot of feedback on that. And it's been great so far. And he's been great to work with. But he knows he's got big shoes to fill, but he's excited about that.
I'll tell you, Jeremiah being a Buckeye, he's a South Florida Broward County Hall of Famer. Whenever we were following that college football playoff, and obviously Miami beats Ohio State, and then Miami goes on to do what it does, and Malachi Toney is having the year he's having, and South Florida's being celebrated because it's where the national championship is, it felt like everybody in Miami thought for sure he's coming back home.
Yeah.
He is coming back home. And then Jeremiah came out and said, I'm a Buckeye, man. I'm never leaving. To your point, chose Ohio State. Now, obviously, there's business. There's always going to be business. But the fact that he wanted to finish it out with Ohio State, I think, is a huge deal to you because he had an entire half of a state,
state
telling him he needed to come home.
We knew he wasn't coming home.
Oh, okay.
Not everybody.
That's what he's saying.
Finish your story, Jeremiah. Finish your story. I love to support Jeremiah.
That's what they're saying now.
It's like Chris Gamble.
I think that's a hell of a compliment to you. I think that is to you and your culture and to your team and to your school. It's like, I think that's a big deal that should get talked about because I'm going to be honest, Ron, I didn't think you were beating an entire – I thought South Florida was going to beat you.
Yeah.
I really did. But obviously I think that goes back to the culture and the relationships and the connection that you're talking about, right? Is that like perfect proof for you in that whole regard?
Well, I think it speaks, one, to Jeremiah and who he is. and then to, his family. And anytime you go through recruiting, even though there's a lot more that comes with it nowadays, it's still about relationships. And so, I think that everything that they said they were going to do and what Jeremiah said he was going to do, he's doing. And I think it's the same thing on our end. And I think when there's a certain level of trust, you can work through anything. And that's just a great example of it. But you're talking about, to me, one of the most iconic players, maybe in the history of college football. Mm-hmm. And he understands that. And he knows there's a whole generation of young people. He's like a cult. He has a cult following. I mean, everyone in the world knows about Jeremiah Smith. And he understands that. And he embraces that. He's found his voice on our team. But he also knows that there's like a whole generation of these young people that are watching everything he does. And the way he lives his life with discipline it's a motivator for all of us. And what he says he's going to do, he does. And that's a sign of true character.
I love that. I can't wait to watch him this year. And with all the distractions that are possible for these young guys, you just talked about a legion of fans following his every move in a city wanting him to come back. This guy was just a teenager. This guy was a teenager with these types of expectations. We're doing the whole state. We're doing these commitments on air, Ryan, and boy, I tell you, people picking West Virginia,
a lot of them
over Ohio State every time, Ryan. I don't know what that's all about, but it feels like it is happening. But like the amount of pressure these kids have on them because they're making money. Camps are happening in their name, appearances, family. I mean, it's crazy at the age in which they're having to deal with this, but I guess it's just normal. Now, speaking of normal, new college football has become abnormal, and everybody wonders what the future looks like. Connor has the last question for you here, Coach.
Yeah, Coach, it feels like the big thing of this offseason with college football is the Protect College Sports Act. How much of that is on your radar when you're talking to these kids, knowing that there is, potential probable changes on the horizon when it comes to recruiting and, how everything works?
Every year it's like there's more and more different areas that you got to be versed in. And this really, a lot of it comes down to politics, going through the Senate, going through the House. And there's a lot that goes with it. So, Tony Petiti, our commissioner, does a great job of keeping us in the loop. And then Ross, our athletic director, does the same thing. They ask a lot of questions to recruits, try to figure out what's going on. There's some things that are in the bill that I think we all feel pretty strongly about, some other things that we need to keep working through. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to be leave college football in a better place than it is right now. But we all know we got a lot of work to do.
Yes, we do. We all have a lot of work to do on a lot of things. Mm-hmm. You have to go build a brand new team.
That's right.
A lot of similar pieces, brand new team, new vibe. And I would say you could probably take the first couple weeks off. You're already number one.
Yeah.
You put that coach's poll back up. Look at that, Ryan. Hey!
It's over.
Wow.
We did it.
Undefeated.
Good season, Coach.
Some good teams on that list right there.
Yeah, 8 of them from the Big Ten, 9 from the SEC. The depth of football is certainly becoming very real. We cannot wait to watch your team this year. Thank you for joining us, and good luck.
All right, boys. You guys are the best. Thanks.
Head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes, Ryan Day.
Yeah, Coach.
Thank you, Coach. Hates the number one, right?
Yeah, that is the worst spot to be.
We're trying to figure out what we were going to talk about today. Nice text and cold FaceTime to Ryan Day. He answers. Thank God we caught him in between something. And immediately just go, congrats, man.
Yeah.
The first thing he sees us say in months, I haven't talked to him in months, congrats, man. You guys did it. You won the poll. Don't even need to work. Mm-hmm. He goes, I don't want to hear that. I do not want to hear that. I'm like, let me tell you. And then I turn to the boys. They go, you did it. You won the national championship. No coach wants any of their players to see that they are the best team in the country, allegedly. Because you either get nervous about the expectations and make everything bigger than they actually are, or you think we've already done it. We don't even have to play the games. We're better than everybody. So fascinating, mental warfare that Ryan has to do with his team, but that's every year for him.
Yep.
He knows that, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And I like how he talked about the maturity of his team.
Yeah.
He was talking about how last year Arvell Reese exploded onto the scene. He's a monster. Before the first game day, I was told number nine is going to be a guy. And that's because he played a lot of football the year before, Ryan said. So I do appreciate the fact that Matt Patricia was probably rotating a lot of people in that we maybe didn't know or see or, really have an understanding of what they would become. He's had a lot of depth for a long time. I think he's comfortable in the maturity that he brought in via the transfer portal. Matt Patricia can reach folks. Artie Smith's a big question, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's actually the biggest question.
It's very interesting because his style of offense is much different than what Ryan Day has been calling for years and years and years and years. Even like Chip's offense, they ran the ball a lot that year, but it was still it was more of Ryan's style. It's very different now.